The notification came at 6:37 in the morning, which is how I know I wasn't imagining the timing. My brother never texts before noon unless he wants something. This time he wanted me to stay away. The message was short, almost impressively short for someone delivering news that was supposed to matter. Housewarming is off. Pipe burst in the basement. Don't bother driving over. We'll reschedule. My brother's name at the top of the screen. 3 sentences. No punctuation on the last one. My name is Claire. I was 31 years old that October, and I had spent the previous 4 days baking, wrapping, and loading my car with things I had chosen carefully because that is who I am, or who I was trying to be for people who had already decided I wasn't worth the effort. I had a bottle of Côte d'Aron my brother had mentioned once at dinner 2 years ago. I had a custom cutting board with his address engraved on it. I had driven past the house 3 weeks earlier just to confirm the street number was right. I texted back, "Oh no, hope it's not too bad. Let me know when you reschedule." Then I sat in my kitchen for a few minutes, drinking coffee that had gone lukewarm, and thought about what a pipe burst actually looks like. I thought about the fact that my brother had bought that house in August, new construction, everything sealed and inspected twice. I thought about the weather that week, which had been mild and dry, nothing that would stress a line. Then I got in my car anyway. I want to be honest about why. It wasn't suspicion, not yet. It was something closer to muscle memory, the specific kind of persistence that grows in people who have spent a long time being the one who shows up anyway, who brings the gift anyway, who drives the 40 minutes anyway because maybe this time the door will open a little wider. I wasn't ready to stop being that person. I didn't know yet that I had already been replaced by a version of myself that existed only when I was useful. His street was easy to find. I had the address memorized. I turned onto it just before 9 and slowed down before I reached the house because there were cars I recognized parked along both sides of the block. My mother's silver Accord. My aunt and uncle's black SUV with the dent in the rear panel they've been meaning to fix for 3 years. My cousin Marcus's truck, which I would know anywhere because he has a faded bumper sticker from a music festival we went to together in 2019, and he refuses to take it off. No emergency vehicles, no water damage company vans, no sign of any pipe, burst or otherwise. I parked at the end of the block and sat there with the engine off. Through the large front window of my brother's new house, I could see movement, shapes. The particular warm quality of light that only comes from a room full of people who are comfortable and not expecting anyone to interrupt them. Someone walked past the window holding a drink. Someone else leaned in to say something and a cluster of people laughed. I want to tell you I felt something sharp and clarifying in that moment. The kind of realization that arrives with a clean edge and makes everything simple. But what I actually felt was a kind of dull internal dropping, the sensation of a floor you thought was solid shifting slightly beneath your weight. I had been excluded before. From the group chat they made without me after my father's last health scare. From the meeting with the estate attorney that I only found out about when my cousin mentioned it casually over the phone. Small exclusions, each one explicable on its own. This was not small. I was still sitting there when my phone rang. It was my closest friend Priya. She's a contracts attorney, the kind of person who keeps a color-coded calendar and cries at documentaries about migratory birds, which is to say she is precise and unexpectedly soft in ways that catch you off guard. She had been trying to reach me since the day before about something unrelated, a dinner we were planning, and I picked up without thinking. I told her where I was. I told her what I was looking at. She was quiet for a moment in the specific way Priya gets quiet when she is thinking rather than feeling. Then she said, "Don't go in. Come to my office first. There's something I've been trying to figure out how to tell you, and I think you need to hear it before you walk through that door." I drove to her office instead. Priya works in a converted brownstone in the Westover district, 2nd floor, with a window that looks out onto a courtyard where someone has been growing tomatoes in pots for as long as I've known her. I sat across from her desk while she pulled up a file she had clearly been organizing for some time. There was a paper-clipped stack of documents on one side and a yellow legal pad with notes in her handwriting on the other. She told me she had been contacted 6 weeks earlier by a colleague from a bank's legal department. Routine matter, they said initially. Verification of signature on a loan document. The name on the document was mine. I had not taken out any loan. She walked me through it the way she walks through everything in sequence without skipping ahead to the conclusion, even when I could tell she wanted to get there faster for my sake. The loan had been originated 26 months earlier. The amount was not small. The collateral listed was my professional reputation and projected income. The kind of soft collateral that gets used when someone doesn't have hard assets but does have a cosigner with a clean credit history and a reliable income stream. Except I hadn't cosigned. The signature on the document was mine and I had not written it. The loan had been taken in my name and one other. My brother's. His name was on it legitimately. Mine was not. Priya had spent 3 weeks working quietly with her contact at the bank to understand the full picture before she brought it to me. She wanted to be certain before she said anything because she is that kind of friend, and also because she understood that what she was about to tell me would change the geometry of my family in ways that couldn't be undone. Over 26 months, my brother had drawn down the full amount in increments careful enough to avoid automatic audit flags. The money had gone into the operating account of his interior design firm, which I knew had been struggling, and from there into a series of vendor payments and contractor fees that Priya's contact described as difficult to trace without a forensic review. My brother had borrowed a significant sum of money using my identity as partial collateral. He had not told me. He had not asked me. My signature on the document was not mine. I sat in Priya's office for a long time without saying anything useful. I think what undid me most, sitting there, was not the money. It was the arithmetic of the timing. 26 months ago, I had been at my lowest point in a decade. I had just ended a 4-year relationship and moved back into a studio apartment I could barely afford. I had called my brother 3 times in 1 week, just to have a voice I recognized in the dark. He had picked up every time. He had told me things would get easier. He had sounded like someone who genuinely believed that, and I had believed him because I needed to. He had filed the loan paperwork 11 days after the last of those phone calls. Priya put a glass of water in front of me at some point. She let me sit. She is good at knowing when not to fill silence. Eventually she said, "We have options, but I need to know what you want before we figure out which ones to use." I told her I needed to think. She told me to take a week. She made me eat half a sandwich from the deli on the corner before she let me leave. I took 4 days, not a week, because 4 days was all I needed. I spent the first 2 going through my own financial records, my credit reports, everything I could pull. The loan showed up. It had been showing up for 26 months and I hadn't noticed it because I am not the kind of person who checks her credit report obsessively, and my brother had apparently counted on exactly that. I went through other things too. The last 2 years of family interactions, the shape of them, the texture. My brother had called me in February asking whether I'd be interested in investing in a redesign of his firm's branding. I had declined politely, said I didn't have the liquidity. He had taken it well. Now I understood why. He hadn't needed my yes. He'd already taken what he needed. My mother had mentioned to me in the spring that my brother was under a lot of financial pressure. She had framed it carefully, the way she always frames things she wants me to feel without being asked directly to feel them. I had sent him $200 that month for his birthday instead of the usual $50 because I thought it might help. I had not mentioned it. He had not thanked me for the extra amount. The party. The housewarming party he was apparently having today, right now, in the house he had purchased in August. I did not know where the down payment had come from. I found I did not need to speculate very hard. On the 3rd day, I called Priya and told her what I wanted. I didn't want a quiet settlement. I didn't want a private conversation that my brother would reframe to everyone else as a misunderstanding or a falling out, or Claire being difficult again the way Claire sometimes is. I wanted documentation. I wanted accountability in a room where it couldn't be managed or softened or absorbed into the family narrative as one more thing we don't talk about at holidays. Priya was quiet for a moment and then she said, "All right. Tell me about the housewarming." My brother had not yet officially rescheduled. He was still maintaining the fiction of the burst pipe, which told me he planned to reschedule soon, probably within the week. When enough time had passed that the plumbing story felt plausible, I was going to be invited eventually. Whatever I was being excluded from today, the version of me he needed was still required for other occasions. That is the specific cruelty of being someone's resource. You get invited back. He called on Thursday. Casual, warm in the particular way my brother does. Warmth. Which has always felt like sunlight coming through glass, bright enough to see by but not quite enough to feel. He said they'd gotten the pipe situation sorted. Said he was having people over Saturday evening. Said he hoped I could make it. He said my name the way he always says it, like it belongs to both of us. I told him I wouldn't miss it. Priya and I spent Friday going through the documents one more time. Her associate, a quiet man named David who specializes in financial fraud, had completed a review that confirmed everything and added several details I hadn't known. The forged signature had been notarized using a notary my brother had used for his firm's contracts, someone who would face their own professional and legal consequences for what they had signed off on. The loan repayment had been going out in minimum payments only, extending the term as long as legally possible. At the current rate, the debt attached to my name would have continued for another 4 years. David had also found 2 earlier incidents, smaller amounts. One from 3 years ago, a short-term credit line I had apparently opened and immediately closed, which I had not opened and had not closed. One from 4 years ago, a contractor payment guarantee I had apparently co-signed for his firm's first major renovation project. 4 years. My brother had been practicing on me for 4 years before he got to the amount that actually mattered. I drove to his house on Saturday evening with a gift bag containing the cutting board I had bought 2 weeks earlier, because I am still that kind of person, and I was not going to let him take that from me too. The house was genuinely beautiful. I want to say that plainly because it's true, and because part of what made the evening so particular was the clarity of seeing something real inside something false. He has a gift for interiors, my brother. The entryway had a large format abstract print I recognized from an artist he had followed for years. The kitchen had been opened up somehow, though it was new construction and I wasn't sure what there had been to open. The lighting was warm and considered. He had done something thoughtful with the corner by the stairs. My mother embraced me at the door. She had been there for 3 hours already, judging by the particular quality of her ease. The way she moves through a room when she's been in it long enough to feel like it belongs to her too. My aunt and uncle were in the kitchen. Marcus was standing by the back door with a beer, and I was glad to see him because Marcus has always been the family member I trust most. Not because he's honest exactly, but because he's observant and doesn't bother pretending he isn't. My brother found me within 5 minutes. He looked good. He looked, specifically, like someone who has been under financial pressure for 2 years and has recently felt it lift. There's a particular quality to that relief. I know it. The way the shoulders settle, the way conversation comes easier. He hugged me and said the house had come together better than he expected, and I said yes, it really had. Priya arrived 40 minutes after me. She had been invited by me, added to the guest list in the text exchange where my brother had given me the details, which he hadn't questioned because Priya had come to family events before and he had no reason to think this evening was different from any other. She was carrying a bottle of wine and wearing the cream blazer she wears when she wants people to feel relaxed by her rather than warned by her. She greeted my brother, complimented the house, stood near the kitchen island and talked to my aunt about a neighborhood restaurant they both liked. She is exceptionally good at being present in a room without appearing to observe it. I waited until my brother had gathered most of the guests into the living room to show something on the large mounted screen, a slideshow of the renovation process he had put together, before and after photos, the kind of content that requires everyone to orient toward one place at once. He handed me the remote because I was standing closest to the display console. He said, "Can you hit the first one for me?" I said yes, I hit the first one. The renovation photos came up. The room responded warmly, the way rooms do when the person at the center of attention is comfortable and the content is genuinely good. My brother narrated for a few slides, pointing out decisions he'd made, explaining the choice of materials, being charming in the way he does effortlessly. After the 5th slide, I said his name. He turned. I said, "I have something I'd like to add to the presentation, if that's all right." He smiled the way you smile when you don't yet know you should stop smiling. He gestured at the screen like, "Go ahead." I had sent the file to Priya's phone 2 days earlier. She connected to the screen's Bluetooth from where she was standing near the back of the room. And the renovation photos were replaced by the first page of a loan document dated 26 months ago with my name and my brother's name at the top, and a signature in my handwriting that I had not written. The room changed in the way rooms change when something structural shifts. Not a sound exactly. More of a collective recalibration, the slight physical adjustment of people who have realized the event they are attending is no longer the event they thought they were attending. My brother said my name, just my name, once, in a register I had never heard him use before. I said, 26 months ago a loan was originated in my name without my knowledge or consent. The signature on this document is a forgery, which has been confirmed by a certified forensic document examiner. The notarization was performed by someone who will be separately reported to the state licensing board. The full loan amount, plus interest accrued over 26 months, plus the 2 prior unauthorized credit instruments also attached to my name, totals an amount I'll be filing civil claims for on Monday morning. I paused. I said, I wanted to do this here because I have spent 4 years being managed in private. Managed, minimized, and borrowed from without being asked. Everyone in this room is someone who matters to me or to my brother. And I think you deserve to know what has been happening inside this family before you're asked to take a side, based on a version of events you weren't given the facts for. My mother made a sound. My brother looked at Priya, then back at me, then at the screen, and I watched him do the very fast internal calculation of whether there was any response that could recover the situation. There wasn't. He is smart enough to know when a position is indefensible. He said, nothing. My aunt put her hand on my mother's arm. Marcus, standing by the back door where he had been the whole evening, nodded once in a way that I understood to mean, I know. I'm sorry. This is right. I set the remote down on the console. I picked up my gift bag from where I'd left it near the entry table, and I put the cutting board on the kitchen counter because I had bought it for his house and it was still a good cutting board, and I am still, underneath everything, the person who brings the gift anyway. Then I walked out the front door. Priya drove me home. She didn't talk much, which is what I needed. When we got to my building, she came upstairs and made tea, and we sat at my kitchen table while the city did what cities do in the evening, which is to say it continued being indifferent and full of other people's lives, which is sometimes exactly the right thing to witness. My brother called that night from a number I recognized. I let it go to voicemail. He called again from my mother's phone 20 minutes later. I let that go too. My mother sent a text that said, "We need to talk, Claire." This was not the way. I read it and put my phone face down and thought about what the way would have been. Privately, quietly. The conversation managed and contained and eventually reframed as something that had been worked through, forgiven, filed away. I thought about the 4 years. I thought about the phone calls in the dark when I was 27 and scared and needed my brother's voice, and he had picked up every time, warm and steady, knowing what he had already done. The civil filing went in on Monday as I had said it would. Priya's office handled it. The bank's legal department, once presented with the forensic documentation, moved quickly to investigate on their own timeline and for their own reasons. The notary was reported. The 2 earlier unauthorized credit instruments became part of the same filing. My mother called me 9 times in the first week. I spoke to her once, briefly, and said what I had to say, and then I said that I would reach out when I was ready and not before, and that ready might take a long time. Marcus came to my apartment on a Wednesday with takeout from a place we both like, and we ate at my kitchen table, and he told me he had known something was wrong for about a year but hadn't known what it was or whether it was his place to say anything, and he was sorry he hadn't said anything, and I told him I understood and I meant it. There is a community garden 3 blocks from my apartment that I had walked past for 2 years without ever stopping. In November, I signed up for a plot. It was the wrong season to start anything, the woman at the registration desk told me. But I could get on the list and be ready for spring. I put my name down. I walked home through the particular quality of late autumn light that makes everything look like the last frame of something, and thought about what it means to put your name on something that belongs only to you, that no one else can sign. My brother's legal situation resolved the way these things resolve. Slowly and imperfectly. with outcomes that are technically just but feel, in the lived experience, like standing in a room where the furniture has been rearranged in the dark. You know roughly where everything is. You still walk into the corners. The loan was addressed. The prior instruments were addressed. There are things that cannot be recovered, and we both know what they are. I keep the registration slip from the community garden on my refrigerator. Plot 14, row C. Available in March? There's nothing growing there yet. It's just dirt and a metal stake with a number on it and my name on a list somewhere in a filing cabinet. I go past it sometimes on my walks. I stand at the fence for a minute and look at the empty plot, and I think about what I'm going to plant there. Something perennial, I've decided. Something that comes back on its own. If you have ever been someone's backup plan, their quiet resource, the one they call in the dark and borrow from in the daylight, I want to ask you something. Not about them. About you. When did you first understand that being needed and being loved are not the same geography even when they share a name?